Our next section will be a diet session. Now we move forward an important perspective of nutrition and metabolic health. Our next speaker is Dr. ANKITA SEHJPAL, Assistant Professor in Department of Nutrition and Dietetics at Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies. Dr. Sharma is an MSc in Food and Nutrition, UGC NET and JRF qualified scholar, and a life member of the Indian Dietetics Association and IAPEN. She is also an ISAK Level 1 trainer specializing in the therapeutic nutrition and food product development. She is currently working on research focusing on amino acid profile and cognitive health among adolescents and has received the Best Associate Award from her university. She will now speak on dietary sodium, sugar and fat, the triple threat in cardio-renal metabolic disorder. Please welcome Dr. ANKITA SEHJPAL.
All right, good morning everyone. Here I will be focusing on the dietary aspect. As we all know that diet plays a very crucial role. If we are taking care of the diet initially, we won't be falling in the loop of CKM, right? So I'll be sharing my perspective, a short perspective on dietary sodium, sugar and fat, the triple threat in cardio-renal metabolic disorder. As we all know, I think everyone is discussing that currently we know the status of that 800 million people suffer from CKD worldwide, and there are about 65 million people who are diagnosed with heart failure. And the problem starts with the hypertension first. So regarding diabetes also, 1 in 10 people is estimated to live with diabetes, with majority of type 2 diabetes according to International Diabetes Federation. And it's not surprising that diabetes is increasing rapidly as a problem, and currently 550 million people are suffering from it, and it is expected that it will rise to 643 million by 2030 and 783 million by 2045. Now, among the modifiable risk factors for developing CVD, which is including hypertension and diabetes, are modern lifestyle characterized by too little exercise and unhealthy diet leading to overweight and obesity is particularly critical. So the risk of developing this combination of disorders is linked to aging, sedentary lifestyle and unhealthy dietary habits. So coming to first, sodium. Since we know that there are 3 critical features, sodium, sugar and fat, which we are focusing on, and we could easily relate whenever the sodium levels are deviating, hypertension comes in our mind, our CVD is as a problem. Sugar, diabetes, and fat, again CVD or even liver, which is also coming as a 4th organ of importance. So the threshold for sodium, that is excessive sodium intake above 2.4 grams per day, is strongly linked to hypertension. And a clinical guideline says that in adults, salt intake should be limited to less than 5 grams per day, containing 2 grams per day of sodium. So for children, the maximum amount of sodium is less and need to be estimated based on the energy intake. Similarly, sugar. So added sugar from sugary beverages and ultra-processed foods promote obesity and insulin resistance. And prevention focuses on that the consumption of free sugar should be limited to less than 10% of the total energy intake, which is equivalent to 50 grams or about 12 level teaspoons for a person of a healthy body weight, consuming 2000 kilocalories per day. Moving further to the dietary fat. So we know that the saturated and trans fats worsen dyslipidemia and promote atherosclerosis, driving cardiovascular disease progression. And protective fats, we have both protective fats like unsaturated fats from fatty fish, nuts and olive oil, which helps in reduction in inflammation and support cardiovascular health. But at the same time, we have the fats, which are actually harming our health also, and the clinical guidelines say that a minimum of 15% of energy consumed per day should be from fat and up to 30% total daily calories or more. So we know this perspective that there is an interconnected mechanism which is leading to CKD syndrome. First, mainly chronic inflammation, which we are talking since morning, excess sodium, excess sugar, unhealthy fats, RAS activation, oxidative stress, all these are combining and aggravating the problem of CKD syndrome. Now, the main perspective, the main problem arises from ultra-processed food consumption, which has increased rapidly. The consumption has increased because of availability of these food products, and the commercialization, the marketing of these products is at high, and the vulnerable population which we have, like children, adolescents, they are made prey for consumption of these ultra-processed foods. But at the same time, the medical fraternity is focusing on, combating the problem that the consumption should be less. So the balance has to be made. The market and the medical fraternity has to combine together or work together. That just because of commercialization, we should not make prey our children or adolescents, our younger population, and even adults and elderly population. So recent meta-analysis reported that individuals with high intake of ultra-processed foods had a 17% higher risk of cardiovascular disease compared to those with the lowest intake. And UPFs, they are the major contributor to excessive intake of sodium, sugar, and unhealthy fats, and high consumption of these foods is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. So if we focus more properly, initially we started with processed foods, semi-processed foods. Now in the market is flooded with ultra-processed foods, which are typically unhealthy fat, refined sugar, sodium, and other additives, while they are at the same time low in protein, fiber, and other essential nutrients. So this is the scenario. WHO has given this guideline that the whole foods, they should be considered as a pyramid. Minimally processed foods and then ultra processed foods have to be consumed or need to be avoided, which are actually consumed at in a high consumption pattern. Descriptors such as junk food, fast foods, ready-to-eat foods, instant foods, processed foods, packaged foods, high-fat, sugar and salt foods, they are all categorized as UPFs. And India is now working on UPFs, and they have come up, and with even in the US and all, we have NOVA classification, which have come up with group 4 as UPFs, and they have identified that UPF consumption has drastically increased in India. This is one of the study which shows that about 93% of children which aged 9 to 14 years consume packaged ultra-processed foods, and around 68% consume sugar-sweetened beverages weekly, and more than half consume them daily. So this is actually disturbing, because if this is the type of consumption, if you'll see in our children, so we are actually making them come in the loop of CKD syndrome, CKM syndrome. Now this is one of the important steps which our government has actually proposed and is working on, that is taxation of food high in fat, sugar and sodium in India, which is basically since it emphasizes that consumption of food high in fat, sugar and sodium and obesity are rapidly increasing in India, and taxes, and they have termed it as HFSS, high fat, sugar and salt foods, has been proposed as one of the policy intervention to promote healthier diets globally. So higher taxation of HFSS foods could help mitigate rising incidence of diet-related diseases and morbidity in India, reduce healthcare costs and serve as additional source of revenue for the government. So what can be done? So we have, according to UNICEF, we have UNICEF coming up with the guideline that the growing consumption of ultra-processed foods and sugar-sweetened beverages combined with low level of physical activity and increased screen time, which is again a problem among young children and adolescents, is fueling the problem. So, India has taken several steps, including Fit India movement, Eat Right India campaign, Poshan Abhiyan, and school-based health and wellness programs, and the guidance to place sugar and oil boards in school and offices has also been introduced. So I was happy to listen yesterday's lecture by Dr. Sarita Bajaj. She was focusing that they are focusing on school children, and they are making them aware about the diabetes as a problem and how physical activity is important and all. So same way, we as a nutritionist, we should focus on small children beginning from school. We can actually make them aware, and even we can introduce diet as one of the subject, because if we if we can introduce diet, importance of diet, so the children, they are actually they can be made aware about how healthy diets can help them in future. So definitely they will be the one who will stop their parents to order food from outside. So that can be one of the step which we can take. Then in India has acknowledged as first lower middle income country to adopt WHO best practice policy to limit trans fats while also advancing healthier diets through Eat Right School. The Let's Fix Our Food consortium led by ICMR, NIN and UNICEF partners has called the strong measures. So health taxes on high fat, sugar, salt, food and beverages, front of pack nutrition labeling, restriction on junk food marketing, double duty actions to address both undernutrition and obesity in public funded programs, nutrition literacy and skills, especially for children and youth. So Eat Right movement, we know that it has been even our Honorable Prime Minister Sir Modi ji, he has also emphasized on eating right, and we have seen that Eat Right campaign, Aaj se thoda kam, this has been established. Reduce sugar, salt and fat in your daily diet to reduce the risk of obesity, hypertension disease and heart disease and other non-communicable problems. Even they have come up with the guideline for trans fats, which says that no more than 10% of total energy intake should come from saturated fats and no more than 1% of total energy from trans fats of any type. The problem arises that people approach nutritionists when they are in problem. We do not emphasize that that we should we consult nutritionists for a balanced diet, because if you see all the guidelines, they are according to the energy intake. So we know how to compute the energy intake. What is the energy intake based on your EAR, estimated average requirement? Accordingly, the nutritionist can tell how much amount of sodium, how much amount of salt you can take in the diet, and accordingly you can proceed for consumption of the foods. We are just open with the guidelines, but we are not following it because we do not approach our nutritionists on time. So summing up, Mediterranean and DASH diets need to be followed. Carbohydrate quality needs to be seen, that limiting refined carbohydrates and focusing more on complex carbohydrates. Fat intake needs to be monitored. Limiting saturated and trans fats can be reduced. How? By involving steaming and boiling as an alternative rather than frying when cooking. Replacing butter, lard and ghee with oils rich in PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Also, sugar intake needs to be monitored. Protein quality needs to be focused on. That we need to take 10 to 15% of total daily energy intake, which is generally sufficient to meet the needs of adults. And then again, if we say 50 to 75 grams of person of healthy body weight consuming 2000 kilocalories per day. Salt intake need to be monitored, 2 grams per day sodium, and potassium intake of 3.5 gram per day for adults. So these, if we follow these guidelines and prior to developing the problem, if we approach nutritionists, that would be beneficial. Thank you so much.
What pharmacotherapies emerge in the metabolic health, I think nutrition is going to be the key balance of mainstay of therapy for metabolic health. And thank you very much for emphasizing so well on all the three white enemies, the salt, sugar and fat, which impair our metabolic health. Very well presented. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
See, I have gone across certain social media reports which say that soybean and soya oil contain significant amounts of plant estrogens which are not so good for male patients. Do you agree with this statement?
Sir, not really, because one, how much soya we are consuming. Our soya consumption is not that much. Okay, and we will find many studies which will support and which will not support. So if I talk about my point of view, our soya consumption is not high. At the same time, whenever we are consuming soya, that is only once in a week. So and even soya oil also. We are, as a nutritionist, we suggest that we should go for rotation of vegetable oils monthly. Don't focus on only one oil. If you will see, if we are focusing only on one oil, obviously that everything in excess, or if we are depending on only one thing, that will lead us in deficiency of one of the more nutrients. So again, as I was telling you, we have to also focus on essential fatty acids. So by rotation of oils, so if we are consuming soya oil on monthly basis, we are rotating. So once in a month we are taking it. That won't help any detrimental effect on health. Thank you so much.